Welcome back to Mets Daily. Happy Thursday, October 30th, a rainy fall day here in New Jersey. Welcome back to the show. Hasn't been on since the regular season amidst the Mets collapse. Nelson Figueroa, former Mets pitcher and Pix 11 TV host. Figgy, welcome back. I'm rocking the shirt of us that's been washed so many times that we're fading away. I mean, this is like a representation of my life right now, just fading away into the dust. So, welcome back.
Good to be back, Jake. And yes, I've rocked that T-shirt many a times, and it always strikes me as odd when I see people that I know wearing it, and I'm like, oh my God, that's our faces still on a T-shirt. But good old days, good old days.
I want to find one at Buffalo Exchange at the thrift shop one day and just buy it, even though I probably have enough already. I had every kind XL, and everyone's like, "Let me get a
Oh
shirt." It's
yeah,
like you have like 7 of them. I'm like, listen, when I wash them, they get faded away. I need to wear a new one the next day. So
that
now we just
no
wear
question.
for special occasions. Speaking of special occasions, Figgy, let's just start with the World Series right now. The Blue Jays are one win away from taking down the Dodgers, and I'm a little bit shocked. I got to be honest. I said Dodgers in 6. So listen,
Mm-hmm.
Dodgers can still win in 7, and with how it usually goes with them, they're probably going to go to Toronto and win too. But I think this is one of those stories of a team, a band of brothers playing for each other, and this is what the Mets didn't have. When I talked about they didn't have this kind of chemistry, putting on the blue jacket, the Mets all they did was point to a camera and take a selfie. Themselves. It was kind of an individualistic team. This is a team that puts the blue jacket on. They go through the dugout. They're hugging, they're kissing each other. They're having a blast. They're interviewing all the family members. You got Davis Schneider's hitting the leadoff homer. You have all these heroes of Ernie Clement, guys. The average baseball fan did not know coming into this season who are becoming postseason legends. And of course, Vladdy just doing Vladdy things, and why I badly want him to be a Met. But here they are. Troy Yasevich, 7 dominated innings. A pitcher going 7 innings. What a concept. The Blue Jays are a hell of a story, man. This is fun.
Yeah, when you talk about baseball and what is expected and what actually happens, this is the reason that we love baseball so much. The underdog is always who people will root for, and you hate to see a dynasty. The last dynasty we saw was the Yankees, of course, and we're not going to see something like that. The Dodgers were poised to become the next best thing since we've seen that. We saw the Giants go every other year, which was fun, right? But back-to-back championships, even to think that the Dodgers were going to be the first in over 25 years to do that, it led it to believe it was going to be that special. When you talk about having Otani as your number 4 starter, when you talk about the starting 5 in that rotation, the next 6th, 7th, and 8th guys, 2 of them were all stars. One of them's a future Hall of Famer. The depth of that team was just unparalleled. Like, we haven't seen anything like this. And the fact that not only were they paying people to buy in, but people were buying in just to be a part of the Dodgers, taking the deferments, making as little money as possible so everything would kind of fit in the books to try and build that championship caliber team that can do it for a long, long time. And enter the comeback kids, right? The team that has won more games in comeback fashion when losing games than anybody in baseball. Enter a team that was inspired, uh, honestly, like the big bully Yankees were expected to just run back to the World Series because the depleted American League was supposed to be easy. The American League East wasn't supposed to be anything to write home about. And it was supposed to be the Yankees. And then the Toronto Blue Jays said, why not us? And kicked things into another gear. Yusevich wasn't even on the team until September. That tells you how special, like, this team doesn't have an ego to them. This team doesn't have a price tag to them where all you're talking about is how much they're making. I haven't heard one word about how much people are making. Actually, I did bring up the fact that um, that Scherzer is the highest paid player in all of baseball this year. Little known fact, he's making $72 million because of all the deferments from his other teams kicking in with his $15 million salary that he has from the Blue Jays. But think about that starting rotation. Is that starting rotation anything you would write home about? If you didn't know the Yusevich story, and I said, hey, Trey Yusevich is going to be your game 1 starter, and then you're going to have Shane Bieber coming off of Tommy John. You're going to have a 41-year-old in Max Scherzer. Would you absolutely sit there and go, oh, yeah, this is definitely going to go Toronto's way? No chance. And then even the storybook ending of the 18-inning game, Freddie Freeman does it again. Shohei Otani breaking a record, 9 times on base. It just seemed like everything is poised to go the Dodgers' way, and Toronto Blue Jays find a way to do it again and again and again. And you talked about it. Does chemistry breed winning, or does winning breed chemistry? It's the age old thing, chicken before the egg. Which is it? So for me, when you see a team like this where there is no ego, George Springer was the highest paid player up until a point. Everybody's the highest paid player up until a point. Then it matters about what can we do to win the whole thing. Do you know they were the worst team? They were the worst team in the division last year. Worst team.
And this is what I say: it's not about the star power. When everyone's like, "We need Alonso back. We need Alonso back." Look at the model that the Blue Jays have done. They've had a mix of internal players mixed with veterans, mixed with guys who started the season in single A. Like, it's just been a combination of pieces that have come together, and that's what kind of the Mets need to do. And that's, as we're talking Mets here on Mets Daily, that the Mets need to maybe not go to the Blue Jays model, but it's not about just paying whoever, go get Bregman, bring back Alonso, go do it's not what it's about. Like, it's about the right combination and the right mix personality wise. I don't think the Mets have that right now. So that's why I think there needs to be a shakeup, because the personalities don't coexist. You have one guy trying to make the money. Alonso, I'm sure, is tremendously jealous of the contract Juan Soto got, because he's thinking, look at all I've done for the Mets and the records I've broken and all the home runs I've hit. And this guy's sitting here getting $765 million, and I can't even get a 5-year offer from anyone. So there's personalities that just don't coexist. And the Blue Jays, you don't have that. You have Vladdy getting paid. Scherzer obviously getting all the deferments and him getting paid. But who else is getting paid? Springer's got a decent contract, but everyone else, Ernie Clement. Like, Ernie Clement's making $1 million, $700,000. It's Schneider, same thing. None of these guys are making that much, that they're just playing for each other, and they're playing for a country. And they've united Toronto. It's $1,500 for standing room for Game 6 to potentially see them clinch for this first time. I almost said since Jimmy Carter, since Joe Carter hit the walk-off it was 93,
Almost
right?
the same.
Yeah, 93,
Yeah.
32 years, and now they have a chance to do it again. But the Mets, again, need to figure out a model that works, because what they have right now ain't working.
Well, here's the thing. Baseball always is about keeping up with the Joneses and finding what works. Go back a couple of years ago and you look at the Texas Rangers winning the World Series. You know where they finished in their division the year before? Dead last. Do you know where they finished the last 5 years in a row before they won the World Series that year? They finished either dead last in the division or in fourth place. I think was the best finish that they've had. And then all of a sudden they go from worst to first. So we've seen it done just 2 years ago, right? We see it done. The Dodgers did it a different way by going all in with Otani and having 3 MVPs at the top of your lineup. Yamamoto, being resting guys in the beginning of the season, and then all of a sudden, activating them after the All-Star break and letting them be in mid-season form in October. That worked for the Dodgers. It seemed to have been working for the Dodgers all the way up to now, where the offense has gone cold. They're switching up the lineup all of a sudden. There's desperation in the air for the Dodgers, right? And we're not used to seeing that. The Dodgers did not have a perfect run to this to a championship series. So they've had ups and downs. They've had peaks and valleys. They've dealt with a ton of it, more injuries than anybody else when it comes to the pitching staff, and they still found a way to persevere and get to where they are now. Winning a series can go either way, and you can't sit here and say that this is the model that you have to follow. This is the way it has to be done. Every story is different. Every story is different, because look at Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette stands to be a free agent, is coming off a knee that he's been dealing with all year long. And he said, put me in the lineup, put me wherever, and I'm just going to do everything I can to try and win a championship for this team. Risking potential, if he gets hurt, the next game, say he gets hurt, knock on wood, I never would wish it on anybody. But what if he was to get hurt and has a catastrophic knee injury and he risked everything just for a chance to win a championship? That's how special getting to that level is, getting to that point in your career where you will do anything. We saw Randy Johnson with the Diamondbacks throw a complete game, and then the next day was in the bullpen to try and shut it down. Like, guys will go above and beyond to do that, and it takes a special breed. It takes a little bit of a throwback to say, don't give a damn about the money. Don't give a damn about the metrics, right? We're not talking about exit velocity when it comes to the Toronto Blue Jays. We're talking about guys putting the ball in play, playing small ball, playing good defense, all the things that we used to preach to kids. Hey, this is the way to play winning baseball. And then that all changed. Oh, just hit the ball out of the ballpark. Don't care about the count, swing for the fences. And you're not seeing that nearly as much Now, the Dodgers could come back out here tonight and hit 8 home runs in the ball game and then push it to a game 7 or tomorrow night. That's what you're looking for. It's the magic of baseball, and it's the magic of where you are at to see these things happening and not sit back and say, okay, how do we emulate that? Because it takes a lot to emulate that. One little piece changes it all, right? You don't have a Yasevich that comes all the way from low A ball and every 2 months gets brought up to another level. And then all of a sudden is not only on your postseason roster, but he's starting game 1 of the World Series for you. And then game 4 against Blake Snell, a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, and out pitching him. Nobody had that on their bingo card. So you can't sit here and say, all I can say is, you don't think David Stearns is rolling over every night saying, what if I would have bought up Nolan McLean just 1 week earlier? He win one more game.
How about 2 months earlier? How about that?
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. But the thing is that now, what do you think about when you get decisions and say, "Oh, don't worry about you can't win the division or lose the division in April. You can't like all those things where you missed out on the playoffs by 1 game." Do you ever think in your career you should ever hold back now from doing something that could be changing? The clubhouse could be changing. A losing streak could be changing. Hey, wake up, boys. If I need a young kid to go out there and throw 7 innings, I'm going to do that. And that's what we saw, right? So learning about, taking a chance, playing the hot hand, going and doing something different. The kid is different. Yasevich is different. He releases the ball at 7'1". There's no one else in baseball that throws the ball from that release point. His slider moves backwards. The kid is different. But different works because everybody's used to seeing the same thing nowadays. So different has worked. Now, are we sitting back and saying, okay, now this guy's going to have a Hall of Fame career? Who knows? May he have the best of health and see what he's got, because this story of what he was able to do and how it changed everything for the Blue Jays when it came to that rotation. It was amazing. And that's just a rookie who doesn't know any better. And sometimes you need that. Jackson Dart and Scatteraboo had the Giants feeling like, hey, why not? Any given Sunday. You started to believe that a little bit when you had those two healthy guys, the rookies, who said, don't talk to me about last year. I wasn't here.
We're seeing that, Figgy, in terms of coaches. And just now, the Nationals, here I am living with my dad in the suburbs of New Jersey, and the Nationals just hired a 33-year-old manager, 1 year younger than me, the youngest manager in over 50 years in Blake Butera. The Mets also kind of getting younger with Kai Correa, sub 40-year-old, Troy Snitker, 37 years old. Now the search for a pitching coach. Are there any options? First off, what do you think about Snitker? What do you think about Correa? What do you think about Antoine Richardson leaving the organization? I just put this out there. Could be wrong, but maybe he didn't like that Kai Correa, a guy younger, similar age to him that he worked with in San Francisco, kind of has a higher paying, higher leverage job than him, being the bench coach over the first base coach. I don't know. But maybe he didn't like that. Maybe he wanted a promotion. But what do you think about Richardson going, and what do you think about everything else?
Well, I think that's one of the things that, we're going to start to deal with more and more. Like, everyone's looking for an opportunity, and Antoine Richardson did an unbelievable job at first base. One of the reasons why he was kept, because the Mets stole bases at will. Did a great job on the base pass, great job with as he works with these guys on a multitude of levels, the outfielders as well. Of course, people feel like they've gotten passed up and don't have an opportunity that they should. To me, that must have been something that maybe he's on the forefront of somewhere else where he can become a bench coach at his young age, because he's not very old either, Antoine. I think when you look at who they hired, the hires that they have, Correa, of course, coming over, highly regarded. When you talk about Snitker, has a world championship under his belt already with the Astros. So you're looking at guys that are been in the game at a young age. Hafner was a young pitching coach who got in at a young age and, was able to do some good things. But I just always think it's always about, changing the message just slightly, getting to the point where, maybe these guys can reach the players in a different way, because again, at the end of the day, the coaches are the coaches. They're not teaching these kids nothing new. There's nothing new you're teaching Francisco Lindor that's going to help him hit it with men in scoring position any better. The message could be a little different, like the game planning of, you know, what you're looking for, how you're looking for it, translating information and from, you know, data to what it means in real time to a player is a huge thing. Maybe, you know, seeing that kind of message. John Gibbons was, you know, one of my favorite managers, people on the planet. So I was sad to see him go, but, you know, you talk about getting younger, you talk about, you know, maybe a different approach. And at the same time, Mendoza's on the last year of his deal. You know, he got a 3-year deal. So that's one of the things that you're looking at is, you know, who might be that next manager? Who do you think is a guy who's has manager, you know, capabilities to hire from within and not have to go out and get somebody in the market? So you always have to look at those different things. I think, you know, the shakeup was necessary because you're not going to shake up the majority of this, you know, of the players. You know, you're going to have to get rid of some guys and maybe, you know, hit the market and get some needs addressed that you have. But for the most part, you know, they were going to go younger. Baseball in its essence with the coaches are all younger. They're all being taught, or they're all being trained in a different way
Do you
to
think that
handle
makes
the
a
analytics.
difference? Does that make a difference? Like you as a former player, like, do you think having a younger coach, if they're more relatable, they're in my age range, maybe they'll understand a little 6'7" reference, you know, they'll understand younger, like TikTok-y thing. Like if you're in that clubhouse, do you like having a younger, because listen, Gibbons said, "Hey, we need younger juice in here. I'm 60 whatever years old.
Yeah.
I'm an older guy, and
Yeah.
these players may look at me as call me Unk, like people are calling me Unk on TikTok Live, and I'm 34. So, do you think there is something to that and younger juice in the clubhouse?
I mean, in a way, yes, because I think the old school, there's a certain way that you're used to things being done. There's a certain way that you used to be able to talk to the player. Remember, John Gibbons famously snatched Ted Lilly by the collar right out on the mound because he felt disrespected. Those are things that aren't done anymore. Remember, Billy Martin and Reggie Jackson got into fisticuffs in the dugout. So that's not something that flies anymore. There's instant firing for things like that. And even the thought of anything like that would lead to, you know, things being disrupted very quickly. So I think, you know, when you feel like you're that guy that maybe being like, you know, standing on your lawn and yelling at the sky, and you're falling on deaf ears, yeah, the message has to change a little bit. And I think it's more so there was going to be a whole internal shakeup, and were you willing to be part of that in a way where it wasn't going to you know, affect your lifestyle and what you've got going on? So I do think the coaching staff getting younger, they've got to be united as a united front when they're all coming in at the same time. I think that's one of the hardest things about deciding not to go the coaching route is I felt like if I was a bullpen coach or a pitching coach, you know, you were hitched to whatever manager you were with. And if the team failed, even if your pitching staff did well, normally you still got let go anyway, you know, like you were just a part of it. And you didn't have that kind of control over your destiny. And that made it hard to go into coaching. Whereas you see a lot of these guys, they're getting started younger. The guys that are getting phased out from playing and are able to understand the analytics and jump right in, and because they are contemporaries with the modern player, I think that is something that the team is looking to do, and it's worked for a lot of teams. Pat Murphy was an old school gruff guy, or, you know, Bruce Bochy, old school gruff guy. All those guys, and you can still win with an old school rough guy. Schneider, who's with the Toronto Blue Jays, he had been with the Blue Jays for how long before an opportunity to coach and take this team to the World Series? So it's not necessarily you know, there again, there's no set formula for it. Like, I don't think the hiring of a different strategic pitching coach is going to be the key to everything. It's more about how can you best prepare these players so that they don't have to have the thought process overpassing what physically they have to do and execute.
And I think the personalities in the clubhouse matter. With the Mets getting younger, I do think they want a younger guy. You know, when you think about maybe a Carson Bench coming up, when you think about Nolan McLean as one of your aces now in the rotation next year, when you think about Sproat or whoever's still here amongst the trade, we'll see. Is there any specific name you have in mind? I don't really know a name. Desi Drechel obviously just leaving for the Yankees, which was some kind of big news. There hasn't been a ton of Mets news because free agency and
Right.
everything hasn't begun. So we're grasping at straws here. But is there any name you've thought about as they could go internal with Agers as well? But is there any other name?
No, not really. I mean, that's the funny part is that there's so many. We saw Mickey Callaway get hired as a pitching coach who came from Cleveland, in which he had three guys in Cleveland at the time, starters, who finished in the top 10 in Cy Young voting. Like, that's not a hard job to say, wow, what a great job he's doing, because they had such talent there, right? And then you had Andrew Miller as the stopper coming in every situation, and that team did really, really well. So Mickey Callaway wound up getting an interview for a head being the manager when he had no managing experience, and it just was thought of that because that pitching staff did so well, that it must be because of Mickey Callaway. And I was always of the argument that the pitching coach isn't the one who makes the managerial moves. So how could you say that? It was Terry Francona making all the moves. So as of right now, there's nobody that really jumps off the page to me that says, oh, yeah, this is the guy that they have to hire. When they hired Dave Island, he had come from back-to-back World Series with the Royals and a talented group of pitchers with the Royals. But, you've got to find someone if you're going to continue to go younger. I think there has to be some experience in there as well. There has to be someone who's been there and done it before. And it's not necessarily that there has to be a token guy, but I mean, you can't all be learning on the fly together. And the experiences that you're dwelling on is what you've done in MLB The Show, because you haven't done it yet, right? So there's got to be somebody in that clubhouse, on that coaching staff, that is like, hey, I remember when I went through a slump. You know what I did? Or Jason Jambi, you know what I did? Here's a gold thong, kid. Put it on, and it'll get you out of a slump. Whether it does or it doesn't, it's just a mindset. It's something to change the focal point, make you relax, make you feel like you're playing a game again, right? It's not a job. And I think that's one of the things that's going to be important about the next hire for a pitching coach, because the X's and O's, that's all set up. There's a whole organizational thing set up already. You got a guy from Driveline, you got a guy from and all those technical things, the pitching lab. We know all about that. But it's what happened? Where was it where I know my pitching coach that I last had in the big leagues would challenge the starters and go, we need more out of you. We need you to figure out a way to not give me everything you got in the first two innings, throwing yourself 60 pitches in the first 2 innings, and then we're scrounging to get you through 4. Like, there was no challenge ever issued to those pitchers. It was just like, take your time, just pace yourself out, because when we make the playoffs, you're going to hit your stride. Now, that worked for the Dodgers. It didn't work for the Mets. And I don't think there was a guy on that staff that said, give me the ball, other than when Nolan McLean came up. And he was at the end of his rung. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to have seen fresh Nolan McLean from the middle of the season. We got Jonah Tong, great stuff throughout the minor league season. He had pitched more innings than he ever pitched before. So, of course, you didn't get the best of Jonah Tong. And now that, you're feeling, well, maybe he can hack it. Very young, these guys are very talented, but they didn't put them in a position for success. That next coach has to have that all figured out and be able to not just relate, because Hafner had some success, but he also dealt with injuries a lot with the 3 Tommy Johns and trying to make a comeback. So there's a way of dealing with failure that I think will surpass the amount of success, because success is individual. Everybody deals with it differently. Failure, we all know what it feels like to fail. It sucks.
Speaking of pitching, are you making the big trade for Tariq Skubal? To me, I said I'm not interested in trading for a rental and trading the farm. Obviously, he changes this team completely. He's your game 1 playoff starter, but God forbid Tommy John or an injury, you just traded the farm for 1 year of a guy, and then you could still get him in free agency. What do you think?
If I don't have to trade the farm, I mean, honestly, like, I don't know a lot of organizations that are going to be willing to trade the farm for a guy for a 1-year rental. He's got Boris. He's not signing an extension right away. That's not happening. I mean, that he wants $40 million a year to pitch. I don't think that's happening. He wants a 10-year, $40 million deal at least. I don't see people jumping out on that when you have already 2 Tommy Johns on the ledger, and pitching is a stressful thing in which, what do we know? It's inevitable that you're going to have either injury or a degradation of your stuff. So it's not anything. The predictability isn't on the side of the pitcher, who's one of the most dominant pitchers we've seen in quite some time. I mean, for the love of God, go look at Clayton Kershaw during a 12-year run, not a 2-year run. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I sit back and I say, well, if I'm going to spend 40 million on him, what can I spend money on and help build from within? Because are we sold that we can do it again with a $17 million starter and teach him some new tricks at the lab, and then he'll be able to last a season? Because we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it. Like, I don't think people understand how difficult it is to change the way you throw a baseball when you've thrown a baseball a certain way your whole life just to get a different spin rate. Like, there's wear and tear that it's involved on different parts of your arm, your structure, and you love the kinetic chain. Whenever that happens, there's going to be wear and tear on a body that's much different than you're ever used to. So everybody, just a finger change of a kick change. And that's what started Mania. Mania was down in spring training. I was there when it happened, and he started throwing the kick change that was shown to him by Clay Holmes. And all of a sudden, I get back up north, and they're like, yeah, Mania had to get shut down. He's got an oblique thing going, and the elbow is acting up. I'm like, well, he changed grips of how to do something.
So that
Like,
does play a factor when a guy tries and learns a new pitch and they're changing a grip. That can contribute to some of these injuries.
Oh my God. I can tell you right now from firsthand experience I threw a forkball my whole career, and every staff I ever pitched on, people would want to see, what's the grip like? What's the grip like? Well, it puts different tension on different people's arms, right? But the way I grip it is different because I stretched my fingers out with a softball when I was a kid. If you have a smaller gap in there, it's going to take a lot more to spread that apart. That's going to put stress and strain going all the way down your arm, all the way to the elbow. And so you're not going to release the ball the same. And as you're trying to throw it harder and harder, because that's what everybody wants, more stress, more strain leads to an injury. And we had it when I was coming up. There were several closers who were trying to throw the split finger more like Roger Clemens, because his was 91 miles an hour, went straight down. And they tried it, and they all blew out. They all got hurt because it's not meant to be. Everyone is different. And I think that's something where you don't have to have the sweeper. Everybody, just give him a sweeper. Let's make his ball move sideways. Well, you know what? We were always taught 12-6 with a curveball, and this is the direction that should go, and this is the speeds that there should be. There should be a deviation in speeds. Well, everything is just harder, spin it faster, and what we're seeing a lot with teams is guys are, I would say recyclable, but they're not, because they don't come back the same. Guys are, I guess, disposable. It's like disposable electronics. Like, you go out there and you buy, a VCR because it's $30 and you throw it out when you don't need it anymore. You just buy a new one. I think that's what's going on with pitchers. There's so many pitchers who can do the same thing, and you take away the person, right? You take away the guts, the person, the heart, the soul, and you say, physically, he does the same thing as 5 other pitchers in our organization. And that's how they map it out. Where I look for, is that guy going to be able to do that in a 2-2 count with bases loaded and 2 outs in a big inning? Like, that's the human element that has to be looked at a little bit more, and something that has to be brought forth out of pitchers, that it's no longer cookie cutter to, hey, just go out there and try to get your spin rates and everything maximized for the 4 innings that you're in a game.
It's going to be intriguing to see which of these Mets pitchers they do trade for, because I do feel a trade is coming, whether it's for Skubal, whether it's for Hunter Green, whether it's for Freddie Peralta, who's another expiring contract. Do you want to trade for 1 year of him? He is an innings eater. So I'm intrigued to see what David Stearns does. Pete Alonso, I've said since day one of the Mets season ending, he's gone. I think there's going to be more interest. There's no draft pick tied to him this year like there was last offseason. He had a good season. I don't think David Stearns want to pay him. Is Alonso back, or is he gone elsewhere?
If you ask Alonso wants to be back. If the price point can be met, he's not getting Vladdy money. So let's stop the noise there. There's no reason to even think he should get Vladdy money, right? So you still think he should get somewhere higher? Because remember, he went 30 and then 24. The 30 was just to make him the highest paid first baseman in baseball at the time. And they did that. Check that off the box, right? You're done with that. The other thing was to break the home run record. He did that. Check that off the box. You don't no longer have that as a selling point, staying so you can break the record. Now it comes to, if you want a 7-year deal, nobody's giving him a
No,
7-year
he's
deal.
not getting 6
Nobody.
or 7. I think the most he gets this offseason is 5.
So if he's getting 5, that means you already said that you would go back with him 1 for 24 million. Now, do you say you're going to go 24 million for 5 years, and is that going to be something that he is interested in? No, he probably wants a little bit more. He wants to go more towards that 30 range that he was at, but that's still going higher than Freddie Freeman and then Vladimir Guerrero. So where is that happy medium? So if you push that 24 to 28 and give him the 5 years at 28, I think that's going to be enough to satisfy all parties involved. And what's 28 million if you were willing to pay 24 million for the organization? Because what are your other options right now? Are you feeling confident in another option right now at first base? And or would you be willing to see him in a Yankee uniform? Because the Yankees need a first baseman, and
I don't
I don't think
care.
either one.
I think Met fans are overselling that. Who cares if he goes to the? I mean, obviously, Mets fans are acting out of emotion here, Figgy, with Pete. When you say, is there another option? Yes, no one is going to hit 125 RBIs out there. I understand that. But the goal is you're going to get Black Hole was center field. The center field, they got no production. You're going to upgrade Jeff McNeil at second. You're going to hopefully have an upgrade at third. You're going to hopefully have Alvarez healthy for a year. I think you got to get catching depth. You know, you're going to get better at DH. The reality is you're going to make up for that RBI with the other moves that you make, and you're going to get your starting pitching better. To me, sign me up for Josh Naylor or sign me up for a trade for Yandy Diaz. Yandy Diaz is incredibly affordable. I know he's older, but he's got 2 years of, 11 million, 13 million. You're paying him like 25 million over 2 years. He's going to hit you 290 or 300. He's going to play a bit better defense. He strikes out half of the time that Pete Alonso. I think the Mets want to, they want run prevention defensively, but they also want to move the ball around. You know how many times in big situations they either struck out or hit into a double play? And if one of those becomes a sac fly, you're in the playoffs. I mean, do that a couple times, not only in the playoffs, you might win the division. So I think the Mets want to not just do better defensively, but they want guys to put it in play. And Pete Alonso strikes out every game. He averages a strikeout every 4.5, every 5 at-bats. So I know you're not going to get that offensive production. I know Keith Hernandez talked about it on a show the other day, talked about you're not going to get 125 RBIs. But to me, I'd rather the better overall player than just a big bopper, because this was a top-heavy lineup that didn't have enough across the board. And if you can get a player for $12 million to pay first, then you get the same price at second and upgrade in either Brandon Lau or Ketel Marte over Jeff McNeil. And then you have money to get starting pitcher. You have money to get a center fielder. You have money to get a third baseman, instead of giving $32 million a year for 5 or 6 years to Pete Alonso just to make the fans happy.
Well, you also remember that after the top 4 Mets hitters did a fantastic job this year. Top 4, right? You could put those top 4 versus any top 4 in baseball when it comes to production, when it came to home runs, RBIs, all those different things. It came to stolen bases. You add that all in there. The top 4, Nimmo had a career year. Pete, a bounce back year for Pete. You saw Soto turn it on from nothing to hit 43 home runs. And flirt with 40-40. Lindor, another year of 30-30. Like, you're looking at the top 4 are still going to be your core, right? That's the nucleus of your team if Pete comes back. So I'm okay with that. Now, say you go and take away from the 125, and even if you got 80 RBIs out of that first baseman, you need that center fielder. Do you know the production that they got out of center field?
It was a black hole.
Bupkis.
I mean,
enough
about their defense. They need offense from center field as well. And that's why everyone's crazy about Alvarez. Alvarez doesn't stay healthy and Torrens doesn't hit. I love Torrens' defense, but you can't have a black hole at catcher offensively as well.
So when you talk about the next 5 guys, you need, if you can get 50 RBIs out of the next 5 guys, then you should be okay, because that's going to make up for the 40 that you're missing from that guy in the 4 hole, right? And I know that you can find a 4 hole. Even the Japanese guy that they're talking about,
Akamoto, Murakami, yep.
Well, here's the thing. My prediction is that Freddie Freeman goes out into the sunset, winning another World Series, and retires.
No.
And
he's under contract. Look, what do you think he's going to retire for?
How many more years is his contract? 2?
Yeah, and he's getting paid handsomely, and he's still at the top of his game.
Two,
Why would he retire?
two.
You really think Freddie Freeman is going to retire? He's got actually 1 year left. Not actually, no, 2 years. Sorry, 26, 27. He'll make 22.8 next year and 23 million the year after. 2 years.
So here's my thing, and we've seen it. We've seen it time and time again, over and over again. You're telling me that you got a 28-year-old first baseman, Japanese player who hits 30 home runs a year and is a Gold Glover that's going to be put on the market. I see it's either Seattle or LA. That's it. So New York can dream, they can hope and say, oh, well, maybe we'll get that guy. He's going Seattle or the Dodgers. That's it. There's no other place that I think he goes.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That means to me, if you're holding out for someone of that caliber, you're not going to get him. You have to go plan B. And, I laugh because we talked about the Yankees pivoting to plan B after Soto left. Well, that worked for the most part, right? Throughout the season, 162 games, Goldschmidt batted over 300 for the majority of the season. You had Bellinger had a fantastic year, hitting 30 home runs. You had Grisham came off the scrap heap where you thought he was going to be just a fourth outfielder and hit you 30 home runs. So the plan B, and the plan B included Max Fried with that same money to be the ace of your staff. So the plan B worked out great for the Yankees, right? Because the allocation of funds. So if you're looking at trading for Tariq Skubal, are you one starter away from making it to the World Series? No, you're not. You're really not. Like I don't see that being the best use of resources. Do I think it could work? Absolutely. But it's like, watching the Avengers and Doctor Strange telling you that there's 1 in 14,383,000 chances of making it. There's only one for it to work out perfectly. And we have seen baseball. I just went over it 2 out of the last 3 years. The team that finished the worst in their division has a chance to win the whole thing. So it's not a direct science, and that's going to be the only way to do it. We saw them go through 50 pitchers this year. 50 pitchers put on a uniform. And the first thing they did was sign back Richard Love, your boy,
Dicky
Dicky Lovelady.
Not my boy.
You signed him with a 6.3 ERA to a major league contract. What?
It's strange. Yeah.
I mean, you sit back and you say to yourself, yes, more is needed, but not just more. We saw more last year. We saw too many last year. Now I need to see, get me bona fide 2 starters. Hope that Senga can stay healthy. Hope that Senga finds that the inner dragon to come out of him, because he's the most passive Japanese pitcher I've ever seen. Like, he goes out there with a so what kind of feel to him. And that's not what we thought we had when we signed him to that 4-year deal. So all those things have to add up to you being way more competitive as far as your starting rotation. You can't have we applauded the Phillies for having the most quality starts in baseball, and they showed how they ran away with the division, and their starters were all stars and all those great things. Did it matter at the end because what happened in the playoffs, right? It's always going to be a crapshoot, but you can't have a chance if you're on the outside looking in. So I think everybody learned this year. I think they know that the Mets are still on par to be able to get to that level again. I mean, go back to the Padres they tried to put 8 all-stars in the lineup together, and that worked until June when they did the fire sale and started getting all the pieces that they needed. So everybody is always trying to do something that they've seen somebody else do, or an idea or a theory. Moneyball never won a single championship. I love saying that because Moneyball, everybody talks about it, never won a championship, but it showed how to build a roster for less. You don't have to worry about building a roster for less. Go out and build a roster that is so complete that everything else is an addition to that roster. It's not a supplemental what if contingency plan thing. You want to have the Dodgers have an abundance of riches up and down the lineup, up and down the pitching staff. And if you want to try to compete with them, then you have the resources to do so. But I can't sit back and watch 48 of the pitchers are not guys that I would ever think would be in a Met uniform.
Yeah, well, listen, I think they need starting pitching, but I think fans got to be realistic. You have to remember Christian Scott is ready. I mean, Christian Scott has been rehabbing. He is good to go. He is set for next season. He's part of this rotation. Noel McLean, day one, part of this rotation, and we'll see who else. He's Nelson Figueroa. I'm Jake Brown at Jake Brown Live. Smash that thumbs up. Comment below. We'll talk to you tomorrow, everybody. Thanks for watching.